next week. I'll be down in Nashville working on my country music career. So it might take a while. So let's see. So at the end of Amos, I don't know that we got through the very end of it, and I didn't want to go through without finishing it. And so when we looked at Amos, here I got to go find it again. So we're looking at all the prophets that were at the end of the Old Testament. And I believe it's in chapter 9. Let's take a look. Yes. Okay. Would somebody like to read chapter 9, verses 11 through 15? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Sister Helen. So we studied about Amos, and Amos was, even though it's only 9 chapters, he didn't give the message once and then go back home. He was there for 15, 20, 25 years, giving this same message to the Hebrews, telling them of this coming judgment. And this last part that you read, Sister Helen, is really saying it's not all for naught. At the end, there's going to be the millennial reign, and Israel will come back, and they will come back into their glory, but it will be in the time when Jesus comes back. That's what it's all talking about. And so even though everything seems like it's about the worst for the timing of when all these things are coming to pass, and this is the takeover of the Hebrews and Israel and Judah by the Assyrians, that was devastating to them. However, here's the Lord giving them a ray of hope that the future will still play out the way that they said during David's time, that David's lineage will result in a king, which will be the Son of God, and so on until the end time. So this is a ray of hope for them. And then verse 13, it says, the plowman shall overtake the reaper. And so you think of the person that plows as the person that plants. That's the person that puts seed in the ground, whatever, and then time goes by and then it grows. And then you have the reaper that comes in and they harvest whatever is there. And they're going to say that the food is so plenteous that the plowmen basically tell the reapers, get out of the way. We have to plant. And so it more or less says there'll be no time of famine then, and that the mountains shall drop sweet wine, all the hills shall melt, and it's a time of posterity for all of them. And so faithful people are still there during this time. We don't see much about them during all these verses. We see the wickedness of the people and of the country, but for those that are faithful, they have something here to look forward to. Okay, that was Amos. So we took a break. We did Amos. We're going to take a different other tack today, and then next week we're going to do another one. So if you go back and look at your table of contents, so we did Amaziah, and then we saw in Amos, in 2 Sundays, we saw the logic of God's judgment and God's restoration. Today we're going to look at Uzziah, and then next week we're looking at Hosea. We're going to look at that for 3 Sundays. And then after that, we're going to look at Jonah. That's going to be for 2 Sundays. Then we're going to look at 2 Chronicles of King Ahaz. Then we're going to switch back and look at Micah for 3 Sundays. So we're changing gears back and forth. I just wanted to kind of show you what's going to be happening. We've already done it a little bit already, so it takes a second to remember where we are, because we're not in the same book every single time. One thing that was talked about in Amos was a coming famine, and it said, not a famine of bread nor a thirst for water, but a hearing of the words of the Lord. Since Israel had rejected God's word and told the prophets not to prophesy, they would get their wish. When God grew silent, they learned that his word was their most prized possession. And so you're going to see that continued through the intertestamental period. We don't say that very often, do we? The intertestamental period. That's between the Old Testament and the New Testament. And so that situation continued until it was finally broken by John the Baptist crying in the wilderness. Okay. Now we are here in looking at Uzziah's sin and punishment. We're going to pick up today where lesson 1 ended. That lesson considered the reign of King Amaziah. He was the 9th ruler of Judah. So remember, Judah and Israel were split with Solomon's son, and so they were not joined together. They were 2 separate countries. And King Amaziah began well. He did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, but not with a perfect heart. And he had trouble because he, one, was lifted up with pride and turned to worshiping idols. And so idol worship was a problem in the time of Amaziah, and he really didn't do anything to make it any better when he was there as king. And because of all of this, eventually he was killed, and now it's replaced by King Uzziah. Okay, so let's look at 2 Kings 14 and 21. Okay. If somebody would read 21 through 29, please. Yeah.
He saved them by the hand of Jeroboam, son of Joash. Now the rest of the acts of Jeroboam and all that he did is mighty. And the Lord had fulfilled Damascus and Amnon,
Thank you, Brother Jim. So that's what was happening with Israel during this whole time. And what we see from Jeroboam is he reigned for 41 years. And in verse 24, he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from all the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. And so he did other things which the Lord hated, all of it. And ultimately, Zechariah, his son, reigned in his stead when he passed away. This is a period of time where there is not much righteousness with the Hebrews. Either Israel or Judah, there's really not much you can point at to say that they're doing it the right way. The Lord is sending prophets to tell them of the impending judgment, to basically tell them even the priests weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing in this time. So he sent other prophets to come that would give his message. And his message was a very harsh message. It's you're going to be going into captivity. You're going to lose everything that you're so proud of because of the rich lifestyle you have now. You're not giving the Lord credit for it. You're not counting it as a blessing. You're counting it as you did it yourself. We saw in last lesson where the rich were taking advantage of the poor within the Hebrews. They were just doing like everybody else does. There's really no difference. And except they were Lord's chosen people. That was the difference. And they should have been doing it a different way. They should have been doing it better. And so we're going to continue our reading here with the reign of Azariah, also named Uzziah in Judah. And that starts with, chapter 15, verses 1 through 7. If somebody would like to read that.
Save that the high places were not removed. The people sacrificed and burnt incense still on the high places. And the Lord smote the king so that he was a leper unto the day of his death, and dwelt in several houses. And Jotham, the king's son, was over the house, judging the people of the land. And the rest of the acts of Azariah and all that he did, they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah. So Azariah slept with his fathers, and buried him with his David, and Jotham his son reigned in his place.
So you sure did, Sister Debbie. So Sister Debbie, you just blew the whole surprise ending for everybody with the verses that you read. Everybody was hoping that King Uzziah would make it all the way through and wouldn't have any trouble. You kind of gave it away there, but that's how it's written. So we see here that he was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years. And his mother's name was Jechaliah of Jerusalem. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father Amaziah had done. So he said right in the sight of the Lord according to Amaziah, but what do we know about Amaziah? Yeah, there was problems, right? And so here's his son came right behind him, and he didn't do anything to change the high places for idolatry that his dad didn't do anything about either. So you're seeing more or less he's carrying on some of the same things. And in verse 4, and the people sacrificed and burnt incense still on the high places. Well, we know, Bible says that's not where you're supposed to be doing that. You're not supposed to be worshiping idols, and you're not supposed to be doing the other in that place anyway. And so Sister Debbie told us the surprise ending already by King Uzziah, but we're going to see more about it because it says here in verse 6, and the rest of the acts of Azariah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of Chronicles? Well, guess what? We're also studying Chronicles. So let's go take a look. Maybe like in chapter 26. It'd be a good place to look. Second Chronicles, verse 26. Yes. Second Chronicles, chapter 26, and we'll just start with the first verse. How about that? First verse. Okay. All right, who would like to read the first verse through the 15th verse?
And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, all of his father kings. And he sought God in the days of Zechariah, who had understanding in the visions of God, and as long as he sought the Lord, God made him to prosper. And he went forth to war against the Philistines, and the wall of Hebron, and the wall of Ashdod, built cities without. And God helped him against the Philistines and against the Arabians, but dwelt in Gabal,
Thank you, Sister Doris. You get an A+ for those names that you had to go through. It's always challenging trying to pronounce all those things. Thank you. So here we look at King Uzziah, and he started out as 16 years old, and right away the first thing he did was he built Eloth in verse 2 and restored it to Judah after the king slept with his fathers. And there was a port city on the Gulf of Aqaba. So this was a trade route, and by taking over that port, it was a really smart thing for him to do because it automatically was more prosperous for the country. He was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he did that was right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father Amaziah did. And he sought God in the days of Zechariah, who had understanding of the visions of God. And as long as he sought the Lord, God made him to prosper. And so he sought the Lord a lot because he prospered a lot, and the nation prospered a lot. It said he went forth and warred against the Philistines and brake down the walls of Gath. So what do we know about Gath? Yeah? Yeah, there's different cities. Goliath was from Gath. So those are formidable people. And so he broke down one wall, broke down another one, and the wall of Ashdod, and built cities about Ashdod and amongst the Philistines. And so it says here in verse 7, and God helped him against the Philistines, against the Arabians that dwelt in Gur Baal, and against the Mehunims. And so God was helping him because he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. He was following the Lord. He didn't do every single thing or fix every single problem, but he was doing it in a way that the Lord was pleased. The Lord gave him victory in these different battles, and so much so that his reputation started to become known amongst all of the different countries. And in fact, he would say maybe even since David, they hadn't seen anybody as victorious as Uzziah. And so there was a lot of pride from the country in all these victories. They were devout. It says here in verse 9, Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate, the valley gate, the turning wall, and fortified them. So he didn't just conquer other countries. He also built up defenses that were strong defenses. He also built towers in the desert and digged many wells, had much cattle both in the low country and in the plains, husbandmen also, and vine dressers in the mountains. So he loved working with animals and all that was involved with it, and he was very successful at it. The Lord made him successful at it. So not only was he a warrior, but he was also a person to help take care of the country. And just a handful of things we saw here already was a huge impact. Uzziah had a host of fighting men, went out to war by bands according to the number of their account by the hand of Jael the scribe, under the hand of Hananiah, one of the king's captains. So this is the whole number of the chief of the fathers of the mighty men of valor were 2,600. So 2,600, that's not the warriors. Those were the chief of the fathers. So those were the leaders of the warriors. So I don't know, think of it as 2,600 SEAL teams running around out there. If you put in our terminology, these were warriors. These were fighting men. That's what they did. And they also had this army, 307,500. And so that's a lot that made war with mighty power to help the king against the enemy. So they had a formidable army. They had a country that was doing really well, and Uzziah prepared for them throughout all the hosts, shields, spears, helmets. That word's a hard one. Habergeons, which were really, says, my Bible says, leather coats covered with thin plates of metal. Yeah. Yeah, it's body armor. So if somebody shot at you with an arrow or a spear or whatever, they better hit you in the right place, because it's not going to work if they don't. He made in Jerusalem engines invented by cunning men to be on the towers and upon the bulwarks, to shoot arrows and great stones withal. When I think about that, you ever see those cartoons that or pictures that Leonardo da Vinci drew of the different machines and things? I think about some of that stuff. You think about catapults, you think of other things like that. You think of crossbows, but not just crossbows that shoot one arrow. Maybe it shoots more than one arrow. He had capability, and you would, even though it seems pretty old to us, it was disruptive technology as far as defending yourself and as far as winning battles. And so this capability that he had, the Lord gave him this insight and had this capability, and enabled him to not just conquer land, but to keep it. And so he not only conquered it and was successful in that, he also was able to defend it successfully. And so when you think about all of this that's going on, if you were a Hebrew living at this time, what would you think about this? If you're part of this country. Yeah. Yeah, pretty mighty, right? Be pretty excited about the capabilities you had to provide for yourself and to be prosperous. You could trade because of the port city, so whatever you grew or whatever you made or whatever, you got a place to sell it. And so for them, they thought it was really good. They thought this is a time of posterity. So what happens when we start thinking too good about things? Yeah. Yeah, you get prideful. You don't think about, well, God is the one who gave it to us. God's the one that gave me that job. God's the one that gave me that car or whatever, or gave me that ability to do something, whatever. We just don't. It's easy to get to a point where you just forget about that. You think, well, look how amazing I am, right? And then it doesn't take long after that, especially if you're a king in the Bible, it doesn't take long after that for a Lord's judgment to happen. And we see it over and over, especially in the verses we're studying in this quarter, where kings are not meeting the Lord's requirements, and he's dealing with them. And so let's go ahead and read the next part here. If somebody would read 2 Chronicles 26, verses 16 through 23.
For he transgressed against the Lord his God, and the temple of the Lord, burning incense on the altar. And the Azariah priest went in after him, and with him 80 priests of the Lord that were valiant men. And they withstood Uzziah the king, and said unto him, It appertaineth not unto thee, Uzziah, to burn incense unto the Lord, but to the priest, the son of Aaron, that are consecrated to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, that thou hast trespassed, neither shall it be to thine honor. Then Uzziah dwelt in a several house, being a leper. But he was cut off from the house of the Lord. And Jotham, his son, was over the king's house, judging the people of the land. Now the rest of the acts of Uzziah, first and last, did Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, write. So Uzziah slept with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the field of burial, which belonged to the king. For they said, he is a leper, and Jotham, his son, reigned in his stead.
Thanks, Brother Mike. So we see the rest of the story that Sister Debbie gave us the punchline. And now we're seeing the whole rest of the story here. And so in this verse 16, when he was strong, his heart was lifted up to his destruction. He was so proud. He was so, self-reliant. And he thought of himself as being mighty, but he didn't think of himself being mighty because of the Lord. And so, for whatever reason, he completely forgot about that. And if you look at what did the country think about Uzziah before this, they had to like him, right? He was a mighty ruler. He was victorious. There was economic prosperity. There were all the things that seemed like they were good things. And now here he is doing something completely against the Lord, which is not like him at all. And so how does that happen? Yeah, he was righteous. He was doing what the Lord wanted him to do for the most part. And then now it's like he forgot all that. Human nature is to sin. And so he most definitely sinned. And I don't know, you see somebody win a race or whatever it is. People pat you on the back, great job, all that stuff. That's nice. When you're a ruler, people will say, hey, great job, king, or great job, whatever. Multiply that times thousands and thousands of people doing that. Maybe at some point you think, wow, they must be right. Everybody's saying I'm amazing. Everybody's saying I'm great and I'm mighty. Is it really me? How many times did you look at David as a king and over again he pointed to God? Just over and over and over and over again. Whatever victory he had, he pointed to God. Even against Goliath, he pointed to God every single time. And so in this case, he forgot himself. He transgressed against the Lord, went into the temple of the Lord to burn incense on the altar of incense. So what does that mean? Yeah, he wasn't supposed to do. Who's supposed to do that? Right. Whose job was it? The priest. And even the priest, how many priests are supposed to go into this area? But only like certain times and... Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So it was a place for the priest to go, but not for the king. And so he insisted on going in. And Azariah the priest went in after him, and with him 80 priests of the Lord. 80 people went in. What do you think about that? Mm-hmm.
And going back, even the priest, he was designated which priest would serve a certain day. Not all of them would do what Uzziah was attempting to do.
Right.
So
And so they were outraged at what he was trying to do, and even though nobody told him to go do all this. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
This was completely unheard of for anyone other than descendants of Aaron
Mm-hmm.
to enter that.
Yeah, this was
He
good.
knew it.
Yeah, he knew it. And if you go back to the sins of his father, it was burning incense to other gods, allowing that to happen. And now here he is burning incense inappropriately. And so it was a problem.
Which goes to show you can't be half right.
That's true. You can't.
There's a problem. It all affects the man.
Right. Yeah.
But fact, it's local. Most likely they burned incense to Jehovah. But he was doing it the way the pagans did in worshiping Baal. Baal.
Mm-hmm.
You can compare that to religion today. There's all sorts of denominations, but there's only one right way.
Mm-hmm.
Sincerity is not sufficient.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And he knew it was wrong. He was insisting on doing it anyway, and didn't have the right attitude, didn't have the right mindset. He was very proud, and who knows what drove him to do it or think of doing it in the first place. Uh, but we saw what happened here. They tried to keep him from going in and doing this, and his reaction in verse 19, then Uzziah was wroth. So when they tried to stop him, he wasn't happy about it. He said, "No, I'm gonna do this." And so he had an opportunity, which he didn't take. And while he was wroth with the priest, the leprosy even rose up in his forehead. So where did that leprosy come from? Yeah, God put it on him. It wasn't already in the temple. It wasn't there. And so God put it on him. And as soon as he realized it, they pushed him out. And he also wanted to get out as well, probably because he didn't want it to be any worse, is my guess. He was shocked and surprised that the Lord had smitten him. And so here he is a king. He's a king of a nation. He's a ruler of a nation. He's successful. People listen to him. People do what he tells them to do. He is running everything. And now he has leprosy. So what does that mean? Yeah. So he's taken from the highest point you could be to the lowest point. He's not dead. Lord didn't kill him. Uh, yeah. So here he was a leper, and he had to live in a different place. He was cut off from the house of the Lord. He couldn't even go to do any worship, anything. So his life completely changed. God put judgment on him immediately, and it was noticeable by everyone, and it was a lasting judgment. It wasn't slap in his hands, whatever kind of a judgment, this was the rest of his life. It changed. Yeah, separate from, so he never went back to where he lived. He never went back to anything that he had before. He went to a different place, which was separate from everybody. And so, yeah,
Uzziah, he was wrong. He was slain those heathen priests along with. So God intervened to save their life. If you recall back, when David and his men were hungry and ate showbread, Saul was brought to the priest for giving it to them, and he slew them all. So there's some other similarities. Saul was also guilty himself.
hmm yeah. And the king didn't go by himself. Kings don't go wherever they go by themselves. If we had a U.S. president come visit us here, they would not be by themselves. They had people coming here days ahead of time, and maybe even days after. And so there's a lot of people around. But that's a good point, Brother Mike. Those priests, because of their reaction, would have been punished. Yeah, because he was a ruler. And for attacking a ruler, even though in this case completely justified, they could have been put to death. Yeah. hmm Yeah, it's a good example. All right. Well, we're out of time. Brother Jim's not going to give me any of his time.